Hello, everybody. I am the Cosmic Owl of Cosmic Owl Astrology, Louise Eddington. I am an astrologer and author of 3 books, Modern Astrology, The Complete Guide to Astrology, and The Complete Guide to Astrology and Tarot. And so I'd invite you to go and check my books out. I offer consultations, and I also have an amazing Venus enchantment community where we have 2 calls a month. We have 1 call a month is for the Venus gate in the Venus cycle, which is when the moon and Venus meet each month. And I do teachings and shamanic journey work and talk about the chart. And that's a call where members of the community get to ask questions about their chart. And then I also have a second call in the month where I teach astrology to the members. And I also do almost daily video updates, generally Monday to Friday, and I do a weekend one and a month ahead video. And I'm probably going to introduce a monthly tarot thing or a weekly tarot thing. My main focus is on building my membership community, and moving forward, this is going to be a place where people can get their chart looked at, because I'm moving away from doing one-on-one consultations over time, or at least I'm going to do less because I've got another book to write. Anyway, today we are going to be looking at the blood red moon eclipse that's on May the 15th or 16th, depending where you are. So before we look at that, though, I'd like to remind you to subscribe to my channel. Hit below, hit the subscribe if you're on YouTube. If you're listening on and wherever you prefer to listen to podcasts, also please subscribe so you get notified. If you're on YouTube, if you check the little bell, you'll get notified when I upload a new recording. And I really would appreciate thumbs up, comments, and reviews, particularly on iTunes, even if you don't listen there, because iTunes reviews help to make the podcast more visible. Anyway, before we dive into the chart, I pulled a card for this blood red moon eclipse, but I'd like to just chat a little bit about where we are and kind of what's happening in between now. I'm recording on May the 3rd and the eclipse on May the 15th or 16th, depending where you are. We've just had the Taurus new moon partial solar eclipse that was on the same day as the Venus-Jupiter conjunction at 27 degrees Pisces, which is the degree of Venus exaltation, her exaltation degree, and Pluto stationed retrograde right before it also. So we're right, I'm recording this right in the middle of the eclipse portal. Now I normally try and record the next, if it's on a new moon, I try and record the full moon eclipse on the day of the eclipse or new moon. And I didn't get to do that this time because I was at Astrologer, a convention for astrologers down in Tucson. And I spent most of the weekend of the eclipse soaking up the planets, and with the beautiful dark sky got to witness the beautiful lineup of planets, Venus, Jupiter almost exactly together in the sky, with Mars just above them and Saturn not far away. That's such a rare lineup to see them like that. And it really is signifying times of great change. We didn't get to see the eclipse because it was only visible down in Antarctica and some areas very south of South America. But we did actually kind of lie on the ground, very Taurian at the moment of the eclipse, to soak up the atmosphere. And quite honestly, I just lay on the ground with tears running down my face, because the energies, I cannot emphasize just how transformational they are. And I'll speak about that a little bit more when I look at the chart, and then I'll go on to talk about the numbers and everything as I usually do. But I pulled a card for the full moon eclipse. So the full moon eclipse is going to be on May the 15th in Western US, but the rest of the world is going to be on May the 16th. But the card I pulled is the completion card, the Four of Wands. Now, the Four of Wands is Venus in Aries. So it responds to Venus in Aries. It's the element of fire. Numerology wise, the number 4 for the Four of Wands is a foundation. If you think of like the 4 legs of a table or something like that, that's very solid, cannot be tipped over. So that in itself is boding well, okay, for this eclipse. And as usual, my Sagittarius self has great hope for these things. The key words for this card from my own book, The Complete Guide to Tarot and Astrology, is abundance, belonging, community, celebrations, and joy. And from the Tarot Handbook, this is a reminder that before we can energetically move forward in new directions that have heart and meaning, it's important to consummate or complete that which we have set in motion. This symbol also represents the principle of having achieved something, which is also associated with completion. So we have Venus and Aries on this wheel in the card that you can, if you're watching, you can see it. But I'm using the Thoth or Thoth Tarot as always. And on this wheel, we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 8 spokes, which is a Venus number, the 8 spokes. And it's also 2 times 4, of course. And we have 4 doves and 4 ram's heads. So that's 4 of the Aries and 4 of the Venus, represented by the dove. And doves are kind of a symbol of the Magdalene and Mother Mary and the goddess through millennia. Okay, so this is very powerful. And Venus is said to be, is often said to be in detriment in Aries because she's in the opposite sign to Libra, which is what she rules. But I actually don't think of any planet as being in detriment. It's just different. She operates differently. And as I pull this card, we have just had the leak, which was very Pluto station, of the opinion from the Supreme Court that could overturn Roe versus Wade. So we could look upon this as completion of Roe versus Wade, and war, Aries against women, Venus. Or we could also look at this as Venus in Aries. It's time to stop messing around. It's time to step into our power and self-love and fight to get this codified into law completely. So that's just one way of looking at this card, but just soak up the image for yourself. It's there, it's this mandala. It's got a very green, dark green, rich, fertile background. This really is about making things very solid and very real. And you could also look at this in a way as like the sacred hoop. And Venus in Aries is very pioneering and saying it's time to finish one thing and then go after what we really want. And of course, Venus is in Aries in this eclipse. So let's have a look at the chart. For those listening, I'll try and do my best to describe what I'm looking at. So this eclipse, as I said, is on May the 15th, 2022 in Salt Lake City, where I am. But that will be, so 5:14 a.m. on the 16th Universal Time in London. Okay, so in most places it's on the 16th. So that makes it a 5 months and a 6 or 7 number day. I'm going to say it's a 7 number day because it's in most places in a 6 year. So we've got 5, 6, 7 here, or double sixes, depending on where you are in the world. So we'll look at all the numbers anyway. And it's also at 7 degrees. So that's kind of why I'm going to say it's on a 7 day, because it is May the 16th in most places. And we'll talk about what 7 means. So the moon is at 25 degrees Scorpio, conjunct the South Node at 22 degrees Scorpio. That makes it a South Node blood red moon eclipse, because this lunar eclipse is total, which means the moon will appear to turn red. So many of us will have an opportunity to get out under this full moon. So I really encourage you to do so. A lunar eclipse is a full moon, and that means the sun is at 25 degrees of Taurus and conjunct the Taurus North Node, which is at 22 degrees of Taurus. And this full moon, on this full moon, I should say, is also pretty closely conjunct to an almost exact conjunction between Hecate, the triple moon goddess, at 28 degrees of Taurus, and Sedna, which is at 28 degrees of Taurus. And we've also got Haumea and Pluto at 28 degrees. I'll talk more about those as well. But in aspect to the eclipse itself, if we don't count the 28 degree planets, though I think we should, because that's only a 3-degree orb, which means that Pluto is trine the sun. We've got so many aspects to this eclipse, but most primarily, we've got a square from this full moon opposition on the lunar eclipse to Saturn and Vesta in Aquarius. We've also got a sextile aspect from the North Node, but a trine aspect from the moon to Mars and Neptune in Pisces. They're at Mars at 23 degrees and Neptune at 24. And then we've also got a quincunx from the moon in Scorpio to Eris in Aries. Okay, and Aries is Mars ruled. Now this full moon eclipse is ruled by Mars traditionally. So if we've got that trine aspect to Mars, and then we've also got what I'm going to call a sextile aspect to Pluto. So both rulers of this eclipse are very much involved. But speaking of the card I pulled, Venus in Aries, we also have Venus in Aries on this, and Venus rules the North Node, and Venus is in the other Mars-ruled sign, Aries, as Mars is the traditional ruler of Scorpio. So there's a lot going on. And so not only is this a full moon, which is a point of completion also, I also pulled this completion card, and we have multiple aspects to this eclipse. So it's going to be a big one. Not only is it a blood red moon, which used to scare the bejesus out of the ancients, because the moon turning red was kind of not really understood why, and was seen as a big portent of change. All the aspects kind of are adding to this as well. So buckle up and bear with me. I'm probably got to talk about quite a lot here. But other things that are happening before we move into this eclipse. Jupiter will be at 0 Aries. So Aries, 0 Aries, the first sign of the zodiac. Jupiter's moving into Aries, will go forward in Aries and then will turn retrograde at, I think it's 9 Aries. Jupiter, no, almost 8 degrees 43. Jupiter will turn retrograde and move back to 28 degrees Pisces later this year. But this is just after the ingress of Jupiter into Aries, the first degree of the zodiac. And Ceres will have just moved into Cancer. And these are the world axis points. These are the 0 points at the start of the season. These are big turning of the wheel points. Okay, so I'll talk more to all of that as well throughout this podcast. Also, just before the eclipse, Mercury goes retrograde. Mercury will actually go retrograde on May the 10th. So just less than a week before the eclipse. So Mercury has joined Pluto in retrograde. Chariklo has also turned retrograde by then. So we ended an extended period of no retrograde planets on April the 29th. By the full moon eclipse, we'll have more retrogrades starting. And so things are starting to be reflected upon, reviewed upon from all this kind of crazy time we've been in. One other last thing I want to mention before I take the chart off is that, yes, this eclipse has the Sun and North Node less than 3 degrees conjunct. But just about 2 or 3 days before the eclipse, the Sun actually crosses the North Node to join Mercury of the personal planets, leaving the time of the Black Snake or Draconic Bowl. And if you want to know more about that, on my YouTube channel and on my podcast, my previous episode was a recording I made about the beginning of the end of the time of the Black Snake and some major, big shifts and changes we've got coming. So after you've finished listening to this, if you haven't heard it already, go and check out that video. Oh, okay. Oof. All right, so we've got a lot. So I better dive in. So the first thing I want to talk about is that this eclipse is at 25 degrees, and 25 degrees is a 7. So we'll talk about 7, but let's talk about the 25/7 first of all. On my favorite numerology website, numerology the numbers and their meanings.blogspot.com. Not to remember, I know. But I always love the words she uses. So for 25/7, she says, it's crusade for truth, hidden power, gain through mastering obstacles. It's independence, intuitive, needs time alone, introspective and non-conformist as a person. But 7, if we just come down to the 7 is about the collective consciousness. It's about faith, spirituality, spiritual awakening and awareness, spiritual enlightenment, spiritual development, mysticism, intuition, and inner knowing. The 7 is really kind of one of my favorite numbers because it is about this number of really tuning in to understanding, deep kind of understanding of others, and deep also psychological understanding of others as well. It has this ability, the 7, to tune into that collective vibe in a very deep way and to understand it. Now, so this is a 7 by number and by day if we move to London time. So we've got that double 7 on this day in this 5th month. So I'm going to say that this is a highly spiritual number. All right. We do have a lot of 6s as well, and it's a 6 year. And so let's have a look at that one again. I should have got that up before, but anyway. So the 6 is about natural nurturing. Okay. And the 6 connects above and below. I'm not going to go into great detail on it, but just to say that the fact we've kind of got this 6 and this 7s overly repeated over and over again really kind of does give me hope. We've got a lot of 6s in the planets as well. We have a couple more 5s. So we've got 5, 6, and 7. So we've got 5, which is the number of change, the number of media. We are going, this is a month of change. Eclipses always bring changes anyway, and it's a 5-month. Then we've got the 6th year, which is highly creative and very divine feminine kind of energy. And then we've got the 7, which is highly spiritual, awakening kind of energy, and really kind of tuning into, I'm going to say in Scorpio, into the pain of the collective. And so we've got this 7 degrees, 25, 7 degrees in the sign of Scorpio, which is depth. And on the South Node, this has an element of purging, of leaving something behind and moving towards that North Node and the Sun, and introducing our core into the energy of Taurus, which is the stability, the foundations. And I've talked about it before, but our kind of core value for our survival and sustainability. So this, I think this is going to cut deep, this full moon, this eclipse. The squares to Saturn and Vesta in Aquarius make this really, make a T-square with the nodes, really kind of push this into being a turning point. Anything that's square the nodes or square an eclipse is a real kind of, it's time to master something with Saturn, and with Vesta, it's time to really look at what we're devoted to. Vesta is focus, commitment, devotion, and Saturn is mastery. And Saturn on this is stationing, beginning, well, not quite stationing, but is beginning to slow down, to turn retrograde in Aquarius on June the 4th at just 25 degrees Aquarius. So Saturn will actually station the eclipse degree on his station, but on the eclipse, he's not quite at 25 degrees. He's at 24 degrees, 56 minutes. But I'm going to say this eclipse is really going to dig in and say, what are you completing? What are you mastering? What is it time to purge and release and let go of? What emotional attachments do you have to manipulation, to power, to obsession, all those Scorpio kind of energies, with them being more on the South Node, that we're being asked to leave behind some of the, shall we say, less attractive energies of Scorpio, or all signs of high and low, and to move towards embodying to our very core the energy of Taurus. So that's the square. And with Saturn and Vesta being in Aquarius, the sign of the humanitarian, we're really being asked to find our group, our cause, our people. And, you know, there seems to be a lot of awful going on in the world, but I think it's going to motivate people to be the change, to bring the change that's needed. The good I see coming, being a, you know, complete kind of, you know, for the people kind of energy myself. That's who I've always been. Most of you know I'm a Bernie Sanders supporter, and I was a national delegate for him. It's more about his stand for people's rights that I'm for. And in with the Saturn and Vesta square in Aquarius, this is starting to look for collectivism, for what's good for the collective, for humanity. We might find people coming together to fight for clean air, to fight for climate change, or to reverse climate change, to fight for clean energy. We're seeing the start of it with a big move towards unionization. For example, in Starbucks, there's 2 Starbucks now in in Utah that are trying to get unionized, and there will be more. And even that, what seems horrific about the overturning Roe versus Wade in the US, I think will really kind of motivate people to push to have women's health rights codified, into actual law, instead of relying on a Supreme Court justice decision. To the war with Ukraine, that's opening up people's eyes about humanitarianism and care. Yes, there's been other wars, but this war seemed to affect people more deeply. I don't think it's because they're white. I think it's because of the astrology and how historically that area of the Ukraine has these big ancestral things that are being brought up for us about these conflicts that have gone on for centuries, and about how maybe it's time to kind of come together to bring everybody together in a more peaceful solution. So, of course, I think all wars are important. So yes, I send love and peace to Yemen and all areas affected by war, of course. Let's look at other aspects to this full moon, this blood red full moon. The big trine from Mars and Neptune to the moon. The trine is saying it's an opportunity to really release. Mars in Pisces is more of kind of the spiritual warrior kind of energy, and is saying, let's fight for peace and fight for, coming together and having more compassion and having more kind of unconditional love. Also, lastly, to the full moon, the aspects, we have a quincunx to Eris, Eris in Aries, and Venus is on her way to Aries, to go back to that card, and Venus is conjunct Chiron. So we've got some keys here with this quincunx from that releasing end of the South Node, both Aries and Scorpio being those Mars-ruled signs, to say we are being given a real opportunity to kind of really shake things up now and really bring some change in our individual lives and in the collective, and in Earth, how we live on Earth, as we move towards that Taurus North Node, which is calling us to a more sustainable and survivable lifestyle here on this Earth. Of course, we still have this major aspect going on between Pluto, which is the other ruler of this lunation, at 28 degrees of Capricorn, now retrograde, now reflecting, now reviewing all that's going on in our world. And then Haumea at 28 degrees Libra. On this full moon eclipse, Pluto is at 28 degrees 32 minutes of Capricorn, and Haumea is at 28 degrees 26 minutes of Libra. They are almost in an exact square. Now, Pluto is death and rebirth, and Haumea is really rebirth, kind of without the death. and so this square off is bringing those powerful epochal changing energies together in square, but then they are both in aspect to a really tight conjunction between Sedna, which is spiritual destiny through crisis. So 11,500 year cycle, right? Sedna, taking us right back to the end of the last major ice age period, when we became agrarian people and farming. And this has got reflections in Ukraine, by the way, because that's one of the areas where people first started farming and stopped being hunter-gatherers. And then Hecate is there. She's the triple moon goddess that shows us the way. She holds the lamp up to the crossroads and says, do you want this path or this path or this path? Let me show you the way. And these are all at 28 degrees, which is giving me big hope. Again, I invite you to go and look at that video I did for the timing of, for the end of the beginning of the end of the time of the black snake, because the fact that all of these are at 28 degrees really gives me hope that we are reaching this point of completion. You know, I'm not saying that it's all on this a day, but every lunation I look at gives me hope that all of this awful stuff we've been going through has been coming to light to push us to change in very big ways. And this full moon eclipse is no different. The blood red moon is saying, stop your ways, complete those old ways. We cannot carry on like this anymore. It's time to change and let go of these attachment to the way that we were doing it, and to move to a new and more sustainable way of being. Whew. So lots of things to think about on this. Saturn, I think the Saturn retrograde that begins, as I said, so this eclipse, May the 15th, 16th. Saturn will station retrograde on June the 4th after the next new moon. So check out, you know, don't forget to subscribe to listen to the next new moon episode. Is really going to have us reflecting on our relationship to authority, to how we are our own authority, to mastering, kind of working together for the betterment of humanity as a whole, for moving towards our hopes and wishes. So the Saturn retrograde is going to be pretty huge, especially because it's square this eclipse and will turn retrograde so the eclipse at 25:17, Saturn will turn retrograde at 25 degrees 15. So only 2 solar arc minutes from this eclipse degree and minute. So huge turning point, huge time of reflection on what on earth are we doing here, you know, with all our institutions and our rulers, and what are we moving towards this more kind of authoritarianism? Why are we allowing this? What can we do to stop it? How can we reverse some of these tendencies that are happening and have happened? Okay, and again, I have a lot of hope. Okay, I have to have, really, I guess. I don't know. So I'd just like to stop in the middle here to remind you to, I'm just going to have a sip actually as well. Got my Oprah astrology mug. Oh, and I haven't changed my calendar, guys, because I've been away. Let you be the witness of me changing this calendar on the actual podcast. Look at this. This is from an artist called She Who Is on Facebook. And just look at this for May. Look at this beautiful goddess looking out to the future and to the clouds awakening. Beautiful, right? Anyway, yeah, so I was about to say that. She's from She Who Is. I'm not an affiliate for her. I forgot to put my pendant on. Also, there's an ephemeris who's a sponsor of this show. They make fabulous horoscope pendants with your own chart on the pendant. They're lovely and weighty. I love wearing mine, and I didn't wear it for this, but most of you are listening anyway. If you want to check out the pendants, they send out the pendants with reports for your birth chart and all those kind of things. And they make fabulous gifts. They also lie right about on your heart. So I always kind of say you're wearing your chart on your heart. So check those out. I'll put the ephemeris pendant link on there. But then again, a reminder to subscribe, leave me reviews, leave me thumbs ups, leave me comments. I absolutely love to hear from you. And at this point in my career, I do answer every single comment. Whether I'll be able to keep doing that forever, I don't know, but we'll see. So let's look at some symbols. In fact, let me just go back to the chart and see if there's anything else I want to talk about. I did want to just mention one last thing. The nodes are still at 22 degrees, that master builder number. The nodes always kind of appear to stand still for a little while during the eclipses, because the eclipses are new and full moons on the nodes. So, you know, the fact these particular eclipses happen with the nodes at this master number, which was activated over and over again, makes this time so, so, so important. Oh, Jupiter in Aries. Jupiter in Aries is kind of going to have us really like with a rocket up our backside as well, to really start to begin to create change. But we've also got Jupiter in Aries square to Ceres in Cancer. And Ceres in Cancer, that Ceres is the great mother in the sign of nurturing and the mother. Now, this everything has good and has shadow. Ceres in Cancer is very nurturing, wants to nurture, to mother, can be a bit smother mother though. And this brings me to mind of these kind of fights against women's health rights, because, you know, it's saying, you know, no, I want to control you. I want to have control over your body. Cancer is not all love and compassion, but we're going to get both as well with Ceres moving into Cancer. And with the square to Jupiter, it's going to be amplified. Both sides of these debates about nurturing and how we nurture, and about self-love with Jupiter in Aries. So big changes are coming yet again. Oh my goodness. Wow. So let's look at the symbols. I like the symbols for this. So the Chandra symbol for, let me read the Sabian symbol first. The Sabian symbol by Dane Rudhyar for Scorpio 26, because we always go up the number, is American Indians. Some of these use such, anyway, let's say Native Americans, making camp after moving into a new territory. The keynote, according to Rudhyar, says the ability to adjust swiftly to a new situation by tuning into its requirements. And I am going to read Rudhyar's thing, because I quite feel right with this one. Okay, so he who lives in harmony with nature, moving on as new needs arise, finds himself intuitively at home everywhere. They do not make demands upon life, for they have identified themselves with the great rhythms of the biosphere, and they function at peace with what they produce. Okay, so this to me is talking to the best of kind of learning from Indigenous culture, because they were more in alignment with the cycles of nature and the cycles of Earth. And this is a call for us to adjust to living in that, instead of living in the dominating and enslaving manifestations of the culture that we've been living so far. He said the message, there's a central message of peaceful adaptation to nature, and through adaptation of efficient functioning in all situations, in all life situations. And I think this is really greatly needed. So despite the archaic language of some of that symbology, I do kind of like it. All right. Now, so the John Sandbach rewrote some of the, or rechanneled some of the Sabian symbols to, and he called them the Pleiadian symbols. And he said, at night, the fires of wanderers dot the plains. And then he gives the Azoth symbol as an old ruler decides to turn his kingdom over to his daughter. So this is talking about kind of the old paradigm and moving back into a more yin, feminine, but not necessarily women, but a more night oriented kind of energy where we are less domineering. We don't have to fill our world with light and push and activity all the time. You get that kind of idea. So, okay. So anyway, let's look at the Chandra symbol because I really love that. A she-wolf, her udders full of milk, bearing within you something vast and wild and true. Your instincts given over to this seed. What can be must be, impels sacrifice and renunciation. Being held in the grip of vast primordial forces, taken over by depths that forge new worlds into being. Stunned into submission, unconsciously obsessed with something that lives within you and cannot be forgotten. Supercharged with energy, in tune with the Earth's cycles, everything happening in a magnified and hypnotic atmosphere. The hidden worlds take charge, individuality is eclipsed, and the surge of power dominates consciousness and life by its intensity and ruthless current right through the body, and there is nothing to say about it. Wow, we are really being given an opportunity over and over again to really work with the interconnectedness of all that is. And I really do hope and believe and think that some of the awful my power, control, dominion that is coming to light lately over in so many ways is coming to light for us to be aware of it so that we no longer live that way. But then I'm a dreamer and I'm not the only one. So don't forget to subscribe. My website is louiseedington.com, louiseedington.com. I have spaces for consultation. I have limited spaces as I've had to open up time to write. But I also have my Venus enchantment community. I would love it if you would join me to encourage, to help you to work with the cycles and for you to create a life that's more aligned with the energies of the cosmos. We do shamanic journey work in there. We really learn to embody the energies of the planets, and I want that for you too. So check the links below. It's just $23 a month for the community. They also get discounts off consultations. And look for some interviews, more interviews with fabulous people coming up. I'm hoping to get some of the winners of the OPA Astrology, Most Promising Astrology Astrologer grants on my podcast, so you can get to meet some of these young up-and-coming astrologers as well, who absolutely are fabulous and are so in alignment with what I'm saying here on this podcast. All right, so thank you from me, the Cosmic Owl, and come work with me. Have a great day.